Chen Boda, Mao Tse-Tung on the Chinese Revolution. This is a summary of the book. Aye. Comrade Mao Tse-Tung is the most outstanding exponent of Marxism-Leninism in China. One impact of the October Revolution. The October Revolution was pivotal in introducing Marxism-Leninism to Chinese progressives, awakening their proletarian worldview. Inspired by the October Revolution, the Chinese revolutionary slogan became, "Follow the path of the Russians." Comrade Mao Tse-Tung's role. Mao is recognized as the foremost progressive in China influenced by Marxism-Leninism. His major contribution lies in synthesizing Marxism-Leninism with the specific conditions and practices of the Chinese Revolution. Development of Marxism-Leninism. Mao adapted the universal truths of Marxism-Leninism to address China's unique socio-political conditions, enhancing its relevance for the Chinese Revolution. His contributions expanded the scientific understanding of Marxism-Leninism, particularly regarding its application in Eastern contexts. Emphasis on ideological struggle. Mao highlighted the necessity of continuous efforts to overcome ideological barriers. He led struggles against reactionary ideologies and internal opportunism within the party, including nationalist and right-wing elements within the Kuomintang, Chen and Trotskyism, reformist tendencies among the bourgeoisie and petty bourgeoisie, left adventurism and repeated internal errors. Consolidation of the Communist Party of China. Mao's ideological and practical efforts strengthened the party and equipped it to lead the masses. Unity of theory and practice. Like Marx, Engels, Lenin, and Stalin, Mao emphasized the integration of revolutionary theory with mass practice. He relied on the method of class analysis to derive lessons from the practical experiences of the Chinese Revolution. This approach validated Marxism-Leninism as a living and revolutionary force. Mao's legacy. By combining Marxist-Leninist theory with Chinese revolutionary practices, Mao demonstrated its correctness and vitality. His leadership revealed the transformative power of Marxism-Leninism in revolutionary struggles. Reliance on revolutionary masses. Mao Tse-tung relied on the creative power of the Chinese revolutionary masses and the diverse, complex experiences of the Chinese Revolution to advance Marxism-Leninism. His leadership exposed and discredited distortions and misinterpretations of Marxism-Leninism, demonstrating their irrelevance before the revolutionary masses. Lenin's perspective on global awakening. Lenin's 1922 article on the significance of militant materialism highlights the awakening of new classes and peoples in the East, Japan, India, China, as a validation of Marxist dialectics. He viewed the historical passivity of the East as a contributor to stagnation in Europe, with the awakening of these masses marking a transformative confirmation of Marxism. Confirmation of Marxism-Leninism in the East. The victories of the Chinese people under the leadership of the working class and the Communist Party validate the universality and applicability of Marxism-Leninism. The Chinese Revolution represents a significant triumph for Marxism-Leninism in the Eastern context, affirming its scientific relevance across diverse conditions. Mao's brilliant application of Marxism-Leninism. Mao's leadership exemplifies the successful application and further development of Marxism-Leninism in China's specific historical and social conditions. His contributions serve as a testament to the adaptability and universal strength of Marxist-Leninist teachings, as articulated by Marx, Engels, Lenin, and Stalin. China as the focal point of contradictions. China's semi-colonial status. By the late 19th century, China became a battleground for imperialist powers who viewed it as a prime target for exploitation and division. Lenin in Imperialism, The Highest Stage of Capitalism, 1916, noted that the struggle over semi-dependent nations like China intensified during the period of finance capital, with imperialist powers, e.g. Japan, the U.S., vying for control. Stalin in 1927 highlighted China's significance as a key global market for goods and capital, making it a prime target for imperialist aggression and division. Imperialist exploitation and contradictions. United imperialist oppression. Imperialist powers occasionally united to suppress the Chinese Revolution, as seen in the 1900 invasion of Beijing by allied armies of 8 imperialist powers, e.g., during the Boxer Rebellion. The joint opposition to China's revolutionary movements in 1927. Despite this unity, individual imperialist ambitions led to conflicts as they sought to dominate larger portions of China. Mao described this as conflicts between the imperialists in China. Internal contradictions within the ruling classes. The feudal and comprador classes in China were aligned with different imperialist powers, causing fragmentation and endless wars among warlords. Mao, in 1928, identified the root causes of this instability, the fragmented local agricultural economy instead of a unified capitalist system, imperialist policies of division and exploitation, demarcating spheres of influence. This resulted in a divided and perpetually conflicted ruling class in China. Suffering of the Chinese people and their resistance. Joint oppression by imperialism and feudalism. The Chinese people endured immense hardships under the combined exploitation of imperialist powers and feudalism. Continuous struggles for liberation. Since the Opium War 1840, the Chinese people engaged in numerous large-scale struggles against these oppressions. Even during pauses in these struggles, the intervals were brief, reflecting persistent resistance by a vast population. Key observations. The imperialist exploitation of China led to both unity, to suppress revolutions and divisions due to competing interests. The internal fragmentation of the ruling classes mirrored the external divisions among imperialists. The colossal scale of China's population amplified the magnitude of its resistance, underscoring the importance of the Chinese revolutionary movement in the global anti-imperialist struggle. Irreconcilable struggle in modern China. Resistance to imperialism and feudalism. The Chinese people resisted every imperialist power that sought to exploit China and never succumbed to counter-revolutionary regimes. The prolonged and continuous revolution in China stemmed from irreconcilable contradictions between the Chinese people and imperialism-feudalism. United revolutionary force. The struggle against oppression united the Chinese people into a powerful and organized revolutionary force. These contradictions made China the epicenter of 2 major conflicts in the East, struggles among imperialist powers, the struggle between revolution and counter-revolution, victory through revolution. The contradictions in China could only be resolved through the victory of the Chinese People's Revolution, which would also weaken imperialism across the East. This victory was possible only under proletarian leadership, which organized the revolutionary forces into an effective movement. Role of the Chinese working class. Key characteristics of militancy. The Chinese working class demonstrated remarkable militancy for 3 reasons. Oppression. They endured brutal exploitation by foreign imperialists, domestic feudalists, and capitalists. Concentration. While underdeveloped, Chinese industries were highly concentrated, with many large-scale enterprises employing more than 500 workers. Proletarian majority. Although industrial workers were a minority, The combined proletarian and semi-proletarian population, including poor peasants, made up more than half of China's population. Leadership role. The working class, organized under the Communist Party, became the leader of all revolutionary forces in China. Its strength enabled it to mobilize militant peasants and other revolutionary groups, creating a broad-based movement. 2. Modern China was a focal point of the many contradictions in the East. Point 5. International context and support. Epoch of proletarian revolution. The Chinese Revolution occurred during a global era of proletarian revolutions, with socialism achieving its first major victory in Russia. This international context, along with external support, bolstered the Chinese revolutionary movement. Historical significance. Stalin's prediction in 1927. Stalin emphasized that the Chinese struggle against imperialism would be deeply popular, nationally significant, and globally impactful. He predicted that this struggle would challenge and destabilize imperialism worldwide. Outcome. Events confirmed Stalin's prediction, as the Chinese Revolution ultimately succeeded in overthrowing imperialism and its feudal and comprador allies, marking a turning point in global anti-imperialist struggles. Hard-won victory of the Chinese Revolution. Ruthless and circuitous process. Mao Tse-Tung described the Chinese Revolution as a long, complex struggle spanning 109 years, involving hundreds of military, political, economic, and cultural battles. This arduous process shaped the resilience of the Chinese working class, people, and the Communist Party of China, CPC, forging them into a steeled revolutionary force. Rich revolutionary experiences. The experiences of the Chinese Revolution are a valuable legacy for the Chinese working class and people. These lessons have enriched Marxist-Leninist theory, with Mao Tse-Tung's works crystallizing these experiences into a coherent revolutionary framework. Unique challenges in the East. Lenin's guidance for communists of the East. In 1919, Lenin highlighted the unique task of adapting Marxist-Leninist theory to Eastern conditions, where the majority were peasants and struggles often targeted feudal remnants, not just capitalism. He emphasized awakening revolutionary activity among the masses, translating communist principles into forms understandable and practical for the specific conditions of Eastern societies, aligning with global proletarian movements while addressing local realities, finding unique solutions. Lenin acknowledged that Eastern revolutionaries faced challenges not covered in communist handbooks and urged them to rely on their independent experiences for solutions. Mao Tse-Tung's contributions. Synthesis of theory and practice. Mao continued the work of Lenin and Stalin, integrating communist theory with the realities of China. He adapted Marxist-Leninist teachings to the specific social, economic, and cultural conditions of China, ensuring their relevance and practicality. Building a revolutionary alliance. Mao inspired the Chinese masses to join the global struggle against imperialism. He emphasized alliances with the Soviet Union, the global working class, progressive forces, and oppressed nations worldwide. Outcome of the Chinese Revolution. Overthrow of imperialist rule. Under Mao's leadership, the CPC successfully overthrew the rule of imperialism and its domestic collaborators, feudal and comprador classes, in China. This victory demonstrated the successful application of Marxist-Leninist principles to the unique conditions of the Chinese Revolution. Theoretical significance. Advancing Marxist-Leninist theory. Mao's leadership extended the theoretical contributions of Lenin and Stalin on the Chinese question. His work demonstrated how universal communist principles could be localized and transformed into actionable strategies for revolution in semi-feudal, semi-colonial societies. 3. The Chinese Revolution is part of the World Revolution 14, the global context of the Chinese Revolution. Lenin and Stalin's theory of liberation movements. Lenin and Stalin viewed liberation movements of oppressed nations as integral to the global proletarian socialist revolution. Mao Tse-Tung embraced this perspective, situating the Chinese Revolution within the broader struggle of the world proletarian revolution against imperialism. Imperialism and proletarian revolution. Mao identified the Chinese Revolution as inherently anti-imperialist and part of the epic of imperialism and proletarian revolution. He recognized this as a continuation of the Marxist-Leninist tradition initiated by the October Socialist Revolution and the establishment of socialism in the Soviet Union. Division of the world into two camps. Mao's analysis of global forces, 1926, Mao described the global struggle between the revolutionary camp, led by the Third International under the Red Banner, the counter-revolutionary camp, represented by the League of Nations under the White Banner. He argued that the intermediate class could not remain neutral and would inevitably split, with segments aligning either with revolutionaries or counter-revolutionaries. Tai Chi Taoism and the Kuomintang. Representing the right-wing bourgeoisie, the Tai Chi Tao clique of the Kuomintang opposed class struggle and alliances with Russia and the Communist Party. Mao predicted the inevitable disintegration of this group. They would either align with the proletariat and the anti-imperialist struggle, or betray the revolution to side with imperialism. This prediction came true when Chiang Kai-shek betrayed the revolution, aligning with imperialism. Challenges in the War of Resistance against Japan. Re-establishment of the United Front. During the war, the Communist Party initiated a broad national united front against Japanese aggression. The Kuomintang, however, sought to preserve the dictatorship of landlords and bureaucratic capitalists under the guise of a bourgeois dictatorship. Internal party struggles. Within the Communist Party, a form of right opportunism emerged, attempting to subordinate the proletariat to the big bourgeoisie. Mao's leadership exposed and combated these tendencies, ensuring the proletariat maintained its leading role. Mao Tse-Tung's contribution to revolutionary theory. New Democracy. 1940 Mao's work New Democracy elaborated on Lenin and Stalin's theories concerning revolutions in colonial and semi-colonial countries. Drawing from Stalin's writings and China's revolutionary experiences, Mao outlined the basic direction and principles of the Chinese Revolution. Key points included the necessity of proletarian leadership in a broad united front, recognition of the semi-feudal, semi-colonial nature of Chinese society, the development of a revolutionary path suited to China's specific conditions, strategic insights, Mao's revolutionary framework. Mao synthesized universal Marxist-Leninist principles with the unique realities of China, creating a concrete strategy for revolutionary success. This approach provided clarity for navigating the complexities of national and class struggles within China. The Chinese Revolution as part of the proletarian socialist revolution. Historical context defined by Mao Tse-Tung. The October Socialist Revolution marked a turning point in world history, ushering in the era of imperialism's decline and socialism's rise. Revolutions in colonies and semi-colonies, including China, are no longer bourgeois democratic, but belong to the global proletarian socialist revolution. Revolutionary alignment. China's revolution as an anti-imperialist struggle, is inherently opposed by imperialism, but supported by socialism and the international proletariat. Victory for China's independence is only possible with the aid of the Soviet Union and solidarity from the global proletariat. Key conclusions from Mao Tse-Tung's analysis: anti-imperialist position. The Chinese Revolution strikes unrelenting blows to imperialism, which universally opposes it. Independence for China requires alliance with the socialist state and international working-class struggles. No neutrality in global struggles. Nations must align with either the imperialist or anti-imperialist socialist camp. Neutrality is an illusion, as the intensifying struggle between socialism and imperialism forces every nation to choose sides. The impossibility of a capitalist future. In the era of capitalism's decline and socialism's ascendance, attempts to establish a capitalist society in China after defeating imperialism and feudalism are unrealistic. The bourgeoisie's failure to adapt will lead to their downfall. Communism as the guiding force. Communism has fundamentally transformed the Chinese Revolution, making democratic revolution and subsequent stages of revolution possible. Opposing communism leads to inevitable defeat as the ideology continues to grow and invigorate global revolutionary movements. Implications for nationalism and class struggle. Critique of bourgeois and petty bourgeois nationalism. Mao's theory dismantled reactionary nationalism and challenged the insular worldview of the petty bourgeoisie. It emphasized the necessity of integrating the Chinese Revolution into the global proletarian struggle. Leadership through communist ideology. Without the guidance of communism, the Chinese Democratic Revolution could not succeed, let alone advance to later stages. Mao's analysis offered a clear roadmap for integrating Chinese revolutionary efforts with global socialism. Theoretical foundation and development. Rooted in Marxist-Leninist theory, Mao's approach synthesized the teachings of Marx, Engels, Lenin, and Stalin, especially focusing on the era's defining characteristics of imperialism and proletarian revolution. He adapted these principles to China's specific conditions, ensuring the revolution's correct direction and ultimate success. Validation through practice. The past decade of events in China and the world affirmed the accuracy of Mao's theoretical insights, as articulated in his work New Democracy and subsequent writings. Mao's contribution to revolutionary strategy, Path of Victory. By analyzing the Chinese Revolution through the lens of imperialism and proletarian revolution, and applying Marxist-Leninist teachings creatively, Mao charted the victorious path for the Chinese Revolution. His work not only guided the Chinese Revolution, but also offered a model for anti-imperialist struggles globally. 4. The revolution of the masses of the people under the leadership of the Proletariat 21 transition from old to new democratic revolution. Fundamental historical changes. The October Socialist Revolution and the rise of the Chinese proletariat transformed the Chinese Revolution from an old category democratic revolution, bourgeois-led, to a new category democratic revolution, proletariat-led. Proletarian leadership in the Chinese Revolution. Mao Tse-Tung firmly adhered to and developed the Leninist-Stalinist theory of proletarian leadership. He emphasized that the failure of the 1927 revolution, due to Chen Tusu's right opportunism in abandoning proletarian leadership, highlighted the necessity of this principle. Characteristics of the new democratic revolution. Stages of the Chinese Revolution. Mao divided the revolution into 2 steps. Democratic Revolution. First stage aimed to overthrow imperialism and feudal forces. Unlike old democratic revolutions, it was led by the proletariat, not the bourgeoisie. Its goal was to establish a new democratic society under the joint dictatorship of all revolutionary classes. Socialist revolution, second stage, followed the democratic revolution, transitioning towards socialism. Formula for the new democratic revolution, defined by Mao as an anti-imperialist and anti-feudal revolution of the masses of the people under the leadership of the proletariat. Later refined to include opposition to bureaucratic capitalism, which emerged as a new counter-revolutionary element under the rule of Chiang Kai-shek and the four big families. Weakness of the national bourgeoisie. Role of the proletariat. Stalin, in 1926, noted that the weakness of the Chinese bourgeoisie meant the proletariat had to lead the revolution and mobilize the peasantry. Mao echoed this sentiment, emphasizing that only the proletariat could lead the people to overthrow imperialism and feudalism, as the bourgeoisie was incapable of this task. Right opportunism and Mao's opposition. Struggles against right opportunism. Mao conducted consistent ideological battles against right opportunism, such as Chen Tusu's abandonment of proletarian leadership. He used Lenin's two tactics of social democracy in the democratic revolution as a guiding framework to oppose these deviations. Opposition to imperialism, feudalism, and bureaucratic capitalism. Evolution of revolutionary goals. Mao recognized the need to adapt revolutionary strategy to include opposition to bureaucratic capitalism, in addition to the original goals of overthrowing imperialism and feudalism. This adaptation reflected the changing socio-political realities of China during Chiang Kai-shek's rule. General line for the first stage. Mao's refined revolutionary formula became the revolution of the masses of the people against imperialism, feudalism, and bureaucratic capitalism under the leadership of the proletariat. This formula guided the strategy and policies of the Chinese Communist Party during the first stage of the revolution. Theoretical contributions of Mao Tse-Tung. Synthesis of theory and practice. Mao synthesized Marxist-Leninist principles with the specific conditions of China, developing a clear revolutionary framework. His theory of the new democratic revolution established a foundation for the Chinese Communist Party's approach to revolution. The role of the masses in the revolution. Composition of the masses. The masses of the people primarily refers to the peasants. The revolution is based on a worker-peasant alliance and includes intellectuals, the petty bourgeoisie, and all forces opposed to imperialism, feudalism, and bureaucratic capitalism. The proletariat is the leading force in this alliance. The people's democratic dictatorship, definition and basis. Mao described the revolutionary democratic dictatorship as the joint dictatorship of all revolutionary classes under the leadership of the proletariat. It is also termed as the people's democratic dictatorship under the leadership of the working class and based upon the alliance of the workers and peasants. Leadership of the proletariat. Centrality of proletarian leadership. Mao emphasized that the success of the revolution hinged on whether the proletariat led or followed the bourgeoisie. He asserted that no class other than the working class could lead a genuine revolution to victory in the era of imperialism. Historical evidence. Mao noted that attempts by China's petty bourgeoisie and national bourgeoisie to lead revolutions had consistently failed, proving the necessity of proletarian leadership. The peasant problem, key to proletarian leadership. Mao regarded the peasant problem as central to establishing proletarian leadership in China. Lenin, at the Second Congress of the Communist International, highlighted the necessity of aligning with and supporting peasant movements in backward countries. Stalin also emphasized that the national question was fundamentally a peasant question. Application to China. Mao's approach to the peasant problem aligned with and advanced the perspectives of Lenin and Stalin. He viewed agrarian reform and mobilization of peasants as pivotal to resolving disputes between the proletariat and the bourgeoisie, as well as other reactionary forces. Conflict with the Kuomintang. Agrarian relations as the core issue. Mao identified agrarian relations as the central issue in disputes between the Communist Party and the Kuomintang. And on coalition government, he noted that the Kuomintang's attacks on the Communist Party were rooted in their opposition to revolutionary agrarian reform. Strategic insights. Focus on peasant mobilization. Mao emphasized the importance of mobilizing the peasantry as the foundation for proletarian leadership and revolutionary success. The agrarian question served as the key battleground in the conflict between revolutionary and reactionary forces. Integration with Marxist-Leninist theory. Mao's handling of the peasant problem demonstrated a practical application and development of Leninist and Stalinist principles in the specific context of China's socio-economic realities. Proletariat leadership and the peasant revolution. Centrality of peasant leadership. Leading the peasant revolution is a fundamental indicator of the proletariat's leadership. The bourgeoisie cannot lead the bourgeois democratic revolution because it fears and opposes the peasant revolution. Role of the proletariat in mobilizing the peasantry. Only the proletariat can organize the broad, disorganized peasant population into an effective revolutionary force. This leadership enables the formation of a worker-peasant alliance, the unification of all potential revolutionary forces in China, a connection between Chinese revolutionary forces and international revolutionary movements. Critique of opportunist approaches. Chen Tusu's errors. Chen Tusu, in the first revolutionary period, dismissed the peasant problem and emphasized the bourgeoisie as the sole class basis for the bourgeois democratic revolution. This neglect of the peasant question undermined the leadership of the proletariat and, by extension, the revolution. Two forms of opportunism. Right opportunism. Denied proletarian leadership and rejected the peasant revolution, aligning instead with the bourgeoisie. Examples include Chen Tusu's views and right opportunism during the early stages of the War of Resistance to Japanese aggression. Left opportunism. Refused to unite with middle peasants and the urban petty bourgeoisie, effectively denying the proletariat's leadership. This approach surfaced during the 10 years of civil war. Worker-peasant alliance as the foundation of revolutionary success. Key to victory. The worker-peasant alliance under proletarian leadership was critical for defeating imperialism, feudalism, and bureaucratic capitalism, overthrowing the reactionary Kuomintang clique, basis for transition to socialism. The Worker-Peasant Alliance also ensures the new democratic revolution's evolution into the socialist revolution. Lessons from history. Consequences of opportunism. Past instances where proletarian leadership was surrendered led to defeats and setbacks in the revolution. The success of the Chinese Revolution today is credited to its adherence to the proletariat-led Worker-Peasant Alliance. Strategic continuity. Mao emphasized that the Proletariat-Peasant Alliance is not only pivotal for revolutionary success, but also for the transition to a socialist future. From revolutionary bases in the countryside to the nationwide victory of the Revolution 30, protracted nature of the Chinese Revolution. Shift to the countryside. After 1927, the Chinese Communist Party, under Mao Tse-Tung's leadership, shifted its revolutionary focus from cities to the countryside. This strategy involved building revolutionary strength in rural areas, encircling the cities, and ultimately capturing them. a strategy that proved to be the correct and victorious approach. Conditions influencing the strategy: numerous and powerful enemies. Stalin in 1927 identified a wide array of revolutionary enemies: domestic, feudal landlords, gentry, big bourgeoisie, and reactionary forces like Chiang Kai-shek and Chang Tso-lin. External, powerful imperialist forces. Long, bitter struggle. Mao emphasized that the strength and ruthlessness of these enemies made a prolonged revolutionary struggle inevitable. Revolutionary forces needed time to steel themselves, develop tenacity, and avoid premature, decisive battles. Necessity of armed struggle. The absence of political freedoms and the ruthlessness of counter-revolutionaries necessitated armed revolution. Mao and Stalin both underscored the importance of guerrilla warfare, revolutionary war, and the development of an armed Red Army. Revolutionary base areas. Creation of base areas. Given the dominance of reactionary forces in key cities, Mao argued for the establishment of revolutionary base areas in rural regions. These bases were to serve as consolidated positions for military, political, economic, and cultural revolutionary activities. Foundations for resisting attacks from city-based reactionary forces. Platforms for gradually building strength and achieving ultimate victory. Importance of small beginnings. Mao highlighted the value of starting with small revolutionary territories, likening their potential to a spark starting a prairie fire. Revolutionary bases would build confidence among revolutionary masses, undermine and disintegrate reactionary ruling classes, serve as the foundation for a Red Army capable of leading the revolution to victory. Strategic insights from Mao. Long-term planning. Mao's strategy emphasized patience and persistence, focusing on incremental strength building rather than immediate large-scale battles. Revolutionary confidence. Establishing base areas not only fortified the revolutionary forces, but also inspired confidence in the broader population and accelerated the revolutionary momentum. Red Army as a key weapon. The Red Army, developed through these revolutionary bases, was pivotal to the revolution's ultimate success. Conditions enabling revolutionary base areas. Uneven development in Old China. Mao Tse-Tung identified significant political and economic unevenness in China, which created opportunities for revolutionary bases. Coexistence of modern industrial cities with vast rural stagnation. Coexistence of industrial workers with a majority peasant and handicraft population. Fragmentation of political and military power between central and provincial warlords. Disparity in infrastructure, with limited modern transport alongside primitive pathways. Semi-colonial state of China. The disunity among imperialist powers controlling different regions of China led to disunity among domestic ruling blocs. Unlike a unified colonial state, this semi-colonial nature created fractures that the revolution could exploit. China's vast geography. The sheer size of China provided ample room for revolutionary forces to maneuver and establish bases away from the control of reactionary powers. Legacy of the 1925-1927 revolution. The prior revolution planted seeds for future revolutionary bases, including the Red Army, the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party, CPC, a mass base of revolutionary participants, fragmentation of the reactionary regime, internal conflict among ruling classes. Mao highlighted prolonged splits and wars within the comprador and feudal ruling classes, often fueled by imperialist interference. These internal conflicts allowed small red areas to emerge and persist amidst encirclement by reactionary forces. opportunities amid reactionary disunity. Mao asserted that the internal divisions within the reactionary regime ensured the possibility of revolutionary bases not only surviving, but growing in strength. Application of Marxist-Leninist theory, uneven development as a strategic insight. Mao applied Lenin and Stalin's theory of uneven development, adapting it to semi-colonial China. He concluded that revolutionary success could first be achieved in the countryside by exploiting the weaknesses of reactionary forces. Long-term revolutionary bases could be established in rural areas. The establishment of revolutionary bases. The Tse-Tung Mountain Base. Following defeat of the 1927 revolution, Mao led the revolutionary forces to the Tse-Tung Mountains, where the first revolutionary base was established. This base became a beacon of hope during a time of great suffering, inspiring the establishment of additional bases across the country. Significance of revolutionary bases. Revolutionary bases served as centers for military, political, economic, and cultural development, strongholds for launching attacks against counter-revolutionary forces, symbols of hope for the oppressed masses, signaling the possibility of revolutionary success. Long-term vision for revolution, persistence and growth of revolutionary bases. Mao argued that the revolutionary forces, even starting small, could grow over time and spark a prairie fire. Revolutionary bases provided the foundation for mass mobilization, the development of the Red Army, and the eventual overthrow of the reactionary regime. Opposition to Mao Tse-Tung's line. Chen Tzu clique. After the 1927 revolution's defeat, Chen Tzu and his group became capitulators and liquidators. They denied the peasant revolution, aligned with the Trotskyite clique, and praised Chiang Kai-shek's reactionary regime. Their actions, including lauding counter-revolutionary wars and insulting Mao and the revolution, led to their expulsion from the Communist Party. Left adventurism. Some party members, reacting to the Kuomintang's brutal policies, advocated for a hasty revolution, rejecting Mao's strategy of prolonged struggle. These adventurers ignored the uneven political and economic development of China and the necessity of guerrilla warfare. Three major instances of left adventurism, notably by comrades Li Lisan, Wang Ming, and Paku, caused significant losses to the revolution. Importance of revolutionary bases and guerrilla warfare. Strategic role of revolutionary bases. Revolutionary bases, established and preserved through armed struggle, were essential for sustaining the revolution. Mao emphasized the critical role of rural bases, built through peasant guerrilla warfare, as centers of resistance and revolutionary growth. Guerrilla warfare as a key strategy. Mao elevated guerrilla warfare to a central position in revolutionary strategy, advocating for protracted struggle and incremental victories. He argued against positional warfare and quick victory strategies, which were unsuited to the disparity in strength between revolutionary forces and reactionaries. Failures of adventurism. In the Civil War period, adventurers rejected prolonged guerrilla warfare and the importance of rural bases, favoring large-scale positional battles. Their erroneous strategies led to significant defeats, loss of bases, and eventual pessimism, pushing some toward right opportunism. During the War of Resistance to Japanese aggression, they repeated their mistakes by dismissing the value of anti-Japanese guerrilla warfare and relying on the Kuomintang's regular warfare. This reflected a loss of confidence in the people's strength and the revolutionary potential of grassroots armed struggle. Mao Tse-Tung's contributions to revolutionary strategy, vision of protracted struggle. Mao's insistence on guerrilla warfare and rural revolutionary bases ensured the survival and growth of the revolutionary movement. He emphasized achieving great victories by accumulating small ones, adapting strategies to the realities of enemy strength. People's War. Mao's strategy of People's War combined guerrilla tactics, rural base building, and mobilization of the masses to counteract superior enemy forces. Mao Tse-Tung's strategy of guerrilla and regular warfare. Dynamic approach to guerrilla warfare. Mao outlined flexible methods for guerrilla warfare. Break up the whole into parts to divide forces and mobilize the masses. Gather parts into a whole to concentrate forces for decisive engagements against the enemy. Guerrilla warfare was developed extensively, transitioning into regular warfare as revolutionary strength grew. Transformation between warfare forms. Guerrilla warfare evolved into regular warfare during favorable conditions, such as the latter period of the 10-year Civil War. The final stages of the War of Resistance to Japanese aggression, the War of Liberation against Chiang Kai-shek and U.S. imperialism. Regular warfare often retained elements of mobile guerrilla warfare. In adverse conditions, regular warfare reverted to guerrilla warfare, demonstrating Mao's adaptability to the enemy's actions. Development of revolutionary bases. Growth of revolutionary bases. Bases expanded from small rural territories to larger areas that included cities. This progression mirrored the transition from guerrilla to regular warfare. Revolutionary success culminated in victory over half of China and eventually the entire country. Post-revolution modernization of armed forces. Nationwide victory in defense building. After the revolution, Mao emphasized the necessity of a modernized national defense. In 1949, Mao declared the need for a strong Army, Navy, and Air Force, consolidation of national defense to prevent future imperialist invasions, modernizing forces during Korean conflict, the seizure of Taiwan by U.S. backed forces and aggression against Korea underscored the need for military modernization. While Chinese volunteers supported Korea, efforts to build a modernized Army, Navy, and Air Force continued. Application of Marxist-Leninist dialectics. Dialectical strategy in Revolutionary War. Mao applied Marxist-Leninist dialectics to adapt military strategies to the changing balance of power, flexible transitions between guerrilla and regular warfare, strategic changes corresponding to the revolution's growth and the enemy's conditions. These strategic applications proved the practical triumph of dialectical thinking. Critique of opportunists and dogmatists. Opportunists and dogmatists ignored the relative strength of revolutionary and enemy forces. Their over-reliance on regular warfare and neglect of guerrilla tactics led to failures. By detaching dialectics from reality, they suffered setbacks while Mao's strategies thrived. Key outcomes. Military success through adaptability. Mao's dynamic approach ensured that revolutionary forces could endure, expand, and ultimately secure victory. His strategies effectively balanced guerrilla and regular warfare to match evolving conditions. Vision for modern defense. Mao foresaw the importance of building a modern military to protect China's sovereignty in the face of imperialist aggression. This vision laid the groundwork for China's national defense strategy during and after the Korean War.